This podcast is a peek behind the curtain for those of us who never had the pleasure of serving America in uniform. And we seek to highlight the pride, privilege, benefit, and sometimes sacrifice of that service that's unique to just 1% of the citizenry. While usually appreciated and often revered, their service is foreign to most. Yet they represent threads woven into the very fabric of our culture. These are their stories. These are their demons. These are their lessons. This is the Carry the Load podcast.
So to sort of set the table, I had a very fun, successful naval career. I was a naval flight officer. My opinion, the best airplane for an NFO is the A6 Intruder, right? Because you're out low altitude at night in the mountains, so you can't do that with your eyes closed.
As an FO.
As an NFO, yeah.
Explain to people what that is.
So in the 70s, 80s, 90s, most airplanes were two-seat or four-seat aircraft. Mm-hmm. The one everybody knows is Top Gun, right? F-14 pilot in the front, radar intercept officer, weapons officer in the back. In the A6 Intruder, pilot sat on the left, bombardier navigator sat on the right. So my job was to guide the aircraft through mountainous terrain, high speed, low altitude at night. That's the A6 mission. Bombs on target on time. So that was number one. Then I got to come back to be a flight instructor. So now you're flying like crazy, great time. Then I get the luck of the draw and get selected to work with the Blue Angels as number 8. Flew in the backseat of the two-seat F-18 Hornet. Then I drive John F. Kennedy as the assistant navigator. Okay, back then there was 14 aircraft carriers, so there's only 14 assistant navigators in the U.S. Navy. So I was one of them. And then the last thing, I was flag aide to a 4-star who reported to Colin Powell for 18 months.
So I want to talk specifically about your time in the Blue Angels.
Okay.
You had a very, very unique experience in that you were one of a very small number of people who get to experience being a Blue Angel. And really, there's probably only 3 or 4 new Blue Angels each year. Is that? Yeah,
half the team trades out. So the old guys train the new guys. So the opposing solo, the opposing solo moves to the lead solo, and he trains, or she or he so far trains the new opposing solo. The left wingman goes into the slot and trains the new left wingman, and the slot and the boss train the new number 2, and then the old number 2 and the slot train the new boss.
Yes.
Then you have 2 more aviators, number 7 and number 8. I was number 8. They fly in the two-seat F-18 and go set up shows and all that. And of course, the narrator narrates the show.
Okay, so you were the number 8.
Correct. Only naval flight officer on the team. That's the naval flight officer billet for the team.
Okay, and so as the naval flight officer for the team, how is that different than the aviator in the seat controlling the plane?
The way I would characterize my job, I was responsible for everything from landing to takeoff. So when the jets land, then that's when I pop in. Crowd line, go to the debrief. Not uncommon to have 2 or 3 social commitments, airshow weekend. And then, from getting everybody up and out, getting in the caravan, getting to, making sure the cops are there, getting to the air show. And then once the brief starts, then it's the air show. Walk down, take off, show, land, then I'm back again.
But you are considered one of the Blue Angels, even though
absolutely.
You're not flying.
I'm in a blue suit. Well, I fly in the two-seat F-18.
Right.
So 7 and 8 fly together in the two-seat. To and from shows, airplane breaks, the two-seat is a spare. So if I can, I jump in the back seat and go fly with whomever. So I've seen the demo from the 1 ship, the 2 ship, the 4 ship, and the 5 ship.
That would seem to me like that's a little different for if the boss is used to flying alone in number 1. or even, the slot.
Anybody for that matter.
You're
Yeah.
used to flying alone. Now all of a sudden you got some guy in the back seat.
Right.
You don't want a backseat driver at that point,
Well, but you know what? Some of them like the company.
do they?
Well, I mean, because it's a way to show people up close and personal what's going on.
But would you do this during a show?
If a jet broke and the two-seat went, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll tell you what my just absolute kind of sort of best time in the Navy was. Unfortunately we had a mishap, but nobody got hurt, thank God. But we lost two airplanes. Two airplanes were one we lost and the other one was broken. So the two-seat flew every day. So, and remember, the Blue Angels don't wear G-suits, right?
That's right. I forgot about
They
that.
don't wear G-suits. And mandatory weightlifting 4 or 5 days a week. So for like a month, I flew every day, twice a day with the lead solo. What a rip in his backseat. But oh my goodness, I mean, it was just, I think I was what, I guess I was 31. So you're just at that age where you're in the best shape of your life. Your bones are real dense. I mean, I can't even, you see how excited I am. I can't even describe how much fun it was.
Yeah, and you're flying. You're flying in the solo seat.
Yep.
So, did you ever have any close calls?
In the Blues, no. Did I wouldn't really call them close calls. In the Marine Corps, did you guys talk about the box? Right, never put yourself in the box.
Right.
Like you always want to remove one side,
right,
so that you don't hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen.
I do, but I want you to explain that to people. What does that mean?
Fair enough. So, the box is you never want to fly in the box. So the box are three sides, and so you can't get you can't go forward, and if the fourth side closes, you're either dead or you're swimming or something. So one side would be night. One side would be bad weather. One side would be a bad instrument. All right? And so now it's like, what's the other side? If maybe now I'm running out of fuel. So that's the fourth side. And I saw it happen. Right? Fourth side.
What happened?
They ran out of gas. They had to go swimming. Bad weather, thunder, lightning. Couldn't get to the tanker. Tanker's getting struck by lightning. Couldn't get to the tanker. And so now the decision point is, I think I have enough gas to get home or to get, somewhere dry, or I'm going to try to hit the tanker one more time. That was the decision point. So when they made the decision to hit the tanker one more time, that fourth side closed. So I've had three sides on me. I normally try to break it down to two, but I've never had four. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that.
So yeah.
What that means is, I mean, it's a metaphor for the box you don't want to be in.
Exactly. So you always try to keep one side open. And again, that one side could just be a decision point that you make, right? You could bring that fourth side on yourself, right? So it becomes critical, to make the right decision.
What is the one thing that military service taught you that you still implement to this day, and you thank the military, your time in the military for that?
Right. There are a lot of answers to that question. One that comes to mind, I'll tell the Navy story, and then you'll understand immediately where I'm going. In my first squadron, we lost 4 people in 6 months, and not from anybody shooting at us, just training exercises. The second crew was one of the most experienced crews in the squadron. Both 04s, major lieutenant commanders, probably combined 5,500 hours in the A6. And then they made
a lot.
It's a ton. between, two of them, so 25, 27.50 apiece. That's a lot of flight time. And they made a mistake. And so what that taught me, or what that told me, was it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how much you know or how much more you know than the other person. You can still hurt yourself.
What was the mood like when those pilots were lost?
Oh my gosh. It was tough. I mean, but it's weird. You still have to move on. I think the second one was like, what in the world is going on here? Like, who are these people? I got to, I was in the RAG as a student, and I'm going over to meet my squadron. So I had like no downtime at all. I had my last, check flight in A6 school. That was on a Thursday. On Sunday, I was on an airplane flying to Sigonello, Sicily, to hang out at Naval Air Station Sigonello for like 4 or 5 days. Helicopter to an oiler or supply ship to helicopter to the carrier to meet my squadron. So I'm in base operations. I'm in my leather flight jacket. I think I had an A6 patch on, and so this guy goes, "Hey, are you an A6 guy?" "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Oh, are you like coming or going?" I was like, "No, I just got out of the RAG and I'm going to my squadron." He said, "What squadron are you going to?" And I gave him the squadron, and he said, "Oh, you're going to F Troop. Remember that show?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Wow, really?" And it didn't feel like it when I got there. I mean,
Well, I remember F Troop, but how is that?
Like essentially you're going to the worst squadron in the fleet, the worst A6 squadron in the fleet. A bunch of yahoos, knuckleheads, or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was painting the context for you that you're going to be one of them.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'm like, well, that wasn't really nice, but whatever. And I'm an ensign. By the way, I was a fleet ensign, right? So I'm not in the Navy 2 years, and I'm headed to my fleet squadron, and I hear this, chucklehead, talking about the guys that I'm getting ready to go fly with. But that following year, based on what happened, you could have called us that. And so I think after the second one, and it hit me hard for 2 reasons. Number one, the pilot was someone that I had a lot of flight time with. I mean, I probably had a third of my flight time in the A6 with this guy. I had a lot
with him?
Yes. So that was number one. Number two, it was we have what they call a bombing derby, right? So every squadron in the Navy, or A6 squadron, you have to launch out on a mission at night, low altitude. You have to identify every target. So they grade all of your targets along the way, and you have to put a bomb on the pickle barrel at 10 o'clock straight up. So that was a mission. So we were the tanker for them, because it was a pretty long mission. So we tanked them. So all 4 of us are in the locker room.
So when you say you were the tanker for them, you were flying at a higher altitude.
Well, no, I was in. So it was a 2-ship to go out.
Okay.
Me and my new pilot, we're in the tanker. We put the hose out. We give those guys, more gas, so they can go on a longer mission and fly all the way around a bunch of states to come back and end up at the target complex. So imagine an NFL locker room. You're all putting on your gear. You're laughing and scratching. All 4 of you are together. You get in your airplane, they get in their airplane. So we were basically the last guys to see them that night. So that was, came home and sobbed like a baby, and then just had to get on with it. So
what does the commanding officer say to everybody at that point?
Well, there's a safety stand down for sure. And, we're not going to say anything until we understand exactly what happened. And then the only thing I can remember is that you have folks that will come in from the wing from the medium attack wing to look at all of your policies, your procedures, and your processes to make sure that you're doing things the way you're supposed to be doing them. Now, to be fair, for lack of a better word, I'm getting real specific here, but there was a software change made on our radar altimeter that would keep it going if you busted through your assigned altitude. So in the old, prior to the mishap, if your radar altimeter was set for 500 feet, when you hit or went below 500 feet, you would get the deedle, but then it would stop. So if you didn't get back above 500 feet, you could hurt yourself.
Basically, it was a false communication from the software.
Yeah. Well, just the software was maybe improperly designed. So like in the F-18, your radar altimeter, Betty comes up and says, altitude, and she doesn't stop until you either lower your altitude or get above the altitude you had set in. So same thing here. If that altimeter signal had continued to go off, they would still be here today.
So that's got to scare you a little bit.
It's a mental challenge, but there comes a point where when the engines come on and the radios crack, you're back to business as much as you can be.
So what'd you walk away with after that period of time? For 6 months?
That goes back to my original, what did you learn? Let's talk about those guys. 5,500 hours, two of the best in the squadron, knew more about the airplane than I ever would. No matter what you know, no matter how good you are, no matter how much time you have, no matter how much experience you have, you can still hurt yourself. That was those guys.
I mean, we could obviously sit here and talk flying all day as it related to your experience,
Yeah.
but I want to give you an opportunity to brag on your son a little bit. You have a very unique position in that you influenced Hollywood. Mm-hmm. You influenced Hollywood because your son directed the movie Devotion.
Yep.
What did you know or not know about that story going in?
Embarrassing, not as much as I should have. I think I saw Jesse on a display at the Smithsonian or something to that nature.
Jesse being the pilot
Jesse
over
Brown.
who this is based on.
Yeah, exactly. And Tom Hudner, no idea.
I wasn't either. I was not familiar with it either. And as the movie, I think, does a very good job of framing up the forgotten war.
Yes.
Korea is very much of a forgotten war. I'd say not as much for the Marine Corps, because we had some unbelievable stories come out of that. But certainly for naval aviation, y'all weren't as involved in it.
Right.
And I think it's important to point out for people who haven't seen it, Brown was an African American pilot.
Mm-hmm. The first
in first to get his wings in naval aviation.
Yep.
Hudner went on to receive the Medal of Honor.
Yes.
And so right there, and he's
and thought he was going to get court-martialed. Oh, by the way.
I don't know that I understood that.
Yep.
Why did he?
Because he crashed his airplane willfully.
Ah, that's right.
He crashed his airplane willfully.
But that wasn't really brought up in things.
No, but
and I think that's what I really liked about about the movie. Not that I'm a Siskel and Ebert guy, but I really liked the way your son painted things. It wasn't overly dramatic. It was very, this is what it is.
Yes.
And there was a scene, and again, like you, I don't want to give it away.
Sure.
Towards the end, you're expecting this kind of reconciliation, this kind of, for his antagonist,
right.
for Jesse Brown's antagonist, you're expecting them to all of a sudden Hollywood.
Well, high five, everything's okay.
And that never came. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised to see that. Because I think it was more real, because that doesn't happen in a movie. That happens over time.
Right. And I will, to give him a lot of credit, JD was very purposeful in how that story was depicted. These were two men who were thrown together in very challenging circumstances, not just in Korea, but also back home, you know, and somehow, you know, naval aviation, regardless of where they're from, one guy's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, other guy's from Rhode Island, you know, the naval aviation brought them together, which is what it does.
And I think the other thing I really liked is how much emphasis it put on the importance of trust.
Oh yeah.
And mutual respect.
Yep.
Over like and love.
Yep.
And I thought that was framed really, really well.
Right.
So I know that you advised your son as it relates to the movie. And the one thing I will give away is when Jesse Brown is landing on the aircraft carrier for the first time, he's getting his qualification for the F4U Corsair.
Yep.
For a carrier qual.
Yep.
That was an intense scene.
Okay. Was it really?
For some reason, that was just very intense.
Yeah.
How did you advise him on that he was able to create that intense feeling?
Ooh, you know what? I'm actually going to, the credit for that is going to go to Jonathan Majors.
Okay.
I just think that
the actor playing
Jesse Brown, that is very hard to articulate, and I guess the way I would explain it is you're and this is not the Corsair, but in our life, and I probably have described this to JD at some point, but you're flying at 130 miles an hour, and in 400 feet you're at zero. So you're leaning in your straps. You're leaning forward. Your straps are digging in your shoulders, and in about a second and a half, you're back, and now you're looking over to the right to figure out where you're going to taxi.
And it happens that fast.
It happens that fast. Yeah. The only thing I can say, again, I've never seen myself, taking a trap, but I think, especially at night, I think you're just so busy, flying the airplane. You're just, it's kind of emotionless, right? And then you get out of the jet, and again, especially at night. Daytime is pure fun. At night, you get out of the airplane, you try to get off the flight deck as fast as you can. You go downstairs, and then you look up and you're shaking. You're like, man, what the heck just happened? What did I just do, right? And as the bombardier navigator, I'm doing all the radio communication, and I'm reading out vertical speed to the pilot so that he understands that he's not coming down too fast or too slow. So he's got his scan going. I'm giving him vertical speed indication until we touch the deck. So you're working. So there's no time to be emotional.
How hard is that to understand that, hey, I don't have that control. I got to trust in him.
Yeah. Two things. Number one, you get over it pretty quickly. And number two, if things get really bad, you've got this little handle between your legs that you can pull and step away.
Of course, you might want to communicate to him before you do it.
Well, and the other thing too is, and again, you'll identify with this. Crew coordination is paramount, right? And so there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of communication going on. So you're not two individuals, sitting in the same airplane. I mean, you are a team. You are one with the airplane and with each other. So, but funny story or interesting point. JD had an opportunity to fly with the Blue Angels, and so when he got back, and he's not a 30. Well, he is 30-something years old, but not in the kind of shape that the guys on the team are, obviously. So the G load for them is pretty easy. He was working pretty hard, but I give him credit. 7.2 Gs twice, didn't pass out, so he's still my son.
7.2 Gs twice.
Yeah,
but he did have a suit on.
No, he did not.
He did not have a suit on.
And the team walks you through, the physical maneuver that you have to do when you're pulling Gs. So he did great. I mean, he had a great time.
So one of the things that we do with Carry the Load is we want to make sure that we are keeping the memory alive of those people who never got to take off the uniform. And obviously you served with a few of those.
Yep.
And so we always encourage everybody to have a very good answer to the question, who are you carrying?
A little bit of a twist for me. There's an organization called the Blue Angels Foundation, and I am a board member. The organization is run, it's all volunteer, nobody gets paid, and it's run by former Blue Angels. And our mission is to support wounded veterans and get them the best care that they can absolutely get. And we help fund some of that. And we partner with certain organizations around the country that have been identified and that have the empirical data to show us that they can take care of veterans. And we're trying to do three things. Number one, post-traumatic stress. We want to address that. And we want to address it because it also leads to suicide. So post-traumatic stress and suicide prevention. And the third thing, which really kind of started as being the first thing, is transition. So the example would be Freedom Station in San Diego. So Freedom Station is a place that you go, whether your ailment is mental or physical, you can go to Freedom Station and learn how to transition. I am massively passionate about, and we talked about this a little bit, military folks or veterans transitioning to corporate America. It is one of the toughest things I've done in my life. I was lost, I was aimless, I didn't know who to talk to, had no mentors. Thank God I had a wife and a family supporting me at home, but I had no idea where to go. So this is one organization, but everybody does it. We partner with American corporate partners. And so what they do for us is they identify veterans that are thinking about getting out, and they will assign them a mentor based on the industry they want to get to.
So as it relates to a lot of things you talked about, a lot of people will hear a lot of the stories, the challenges that, that even you and I have professed today coming out of the military, and their thought process would be, that sounds like a very victimized group. Why would I want my son to go through that? Why would I want to go through that personally? What do you say to them?
You can't begin to describe the level or the feeling of accomplishment to being on the ragged edge and being the absolute best you can be, both physically and mentally. The friends you will make for the rest of your life. The relationships that you will have for the rest of your life, the lessons that you will learn that you can apply in just about any life situation. To your earlier point, I would not trade that for the world. Not for the world.
Regardless of all the challenges that you've faced.
No, challenges make you better. They just make you better.
It's all worth it.
Absolutely.
It's all
Absolutely.
worth it. So, Bruce, thank you very much.
This was fun.
I have
This was
thoroughly
great.
enjoyed sitting down talking with you.
Thanks for having me.
My congratulations to your son.
Thanks.
The movie was fantastic.
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus.
Shameless plug. Paramount
Shameless
Plus.
Hey, you can rent it through Apple. If this resonated with you in the least, please subscribe and like, and please, please, please share it with at least one person. These are the stories that make us uniquely American. These are the stories that preserve the integrity of our nation.